going on, everyone? Today was a little bit choppy as 66% of the S&P 500 popped up in the green, but as we all know, we are heading into the biggest earnings week of the entire season as 40% of the S&P 500 is set to report earnings this week, with some of the largest companies in the world set to report, like Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Apple, and many others. So you already know we are going to see some crazy movement, but we also have to talk about a handful of individual stocks today in tonight's episode as well, because we certainly are seeing some explosive movement if you know where to look. We have a lot to cover today. Make sure to stick with us all the way until the end. And besides that, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, this morning, the SPY really tried to make a good jump out above the highs from Friday around 551, and it actually got the job done at first, but then turned right back around and ended up blasting right under that key 550 support that we've been watching over the past few trading days. So there was a lot of up and down action today, and there was honestly opportunity in both directions. I really liked that support breakdown early on in the morning, but as we went forward, there were a lot of people that made a lot of money buying up the dip at the end of the day. So that was pretty awesome to see. But Mike, I know right now everybody's really looking at the big earnings going on. Whenever we are looking at the stock market today, everybody's like really worried about these big companies, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. These are market moving companies. And even tomorrow, we have a very large list of, I would say, growth related companies like SoFi, PayPal. We'll go down here a little bit. Spotify, Royal Caribbean. Some of these stocks can move pretty crazy on earnings tomorrow. So there's quite the rundown coming up. And I know we talked about FSLR a lot yesterday. They report tomorrow in after hours as well. And a lot of these stocks have been falling down recently. Whether we go look at like FSLR on a daily chart, or we look at PayPal or even SoFi, there's been a lot of pullbacks in the short term, and a lot of these stocks are needing a good report here to kind of get the buying going again.
Definitely, and I think this earnings season is going to be especially interesting because of the whole tariff trade war situation. There's been a lot of uncertainty that has caused a lot of analysts to, cut their estimates, and has just brought a lot more bearishness into the market as a whole. So if some of these companies come out and have some relatively good news, we can certainly see some really good moves off of that. And of course, the same thing in the opposite direction, where if some companies are hit especially hard, they will probably take quite the beating, and there can be some short opportunities there as well. So keep a close eye on stocks like SoFi, PayPal, and Spotify tomorrow, as they will report earnings before open, and there's a fair chance that they will move quite a bit. So keep them close on watch, and then as the week goes on, it's only going to get crazier as the big tech powerhouses report. When we look at companies like Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple, guys, these are the biggest companies in the market. Apple, just by itself, has a 6.7% weighting in the S&P 500, which is larger than any other company out there right now. And Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon aren't too far behind either. So we are going to see some crazy moves.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a lot of big movement lately, especially just overall this year, and a lot of it has been to the downside, but there has been some decent bullish price action in the short term, so I do think that in the immediate short term, there's a lot of people still looking for a good breakout here, but I will say today I was looking at the VIX, and it started to bounce a little bit this morning as we saw the SPY sell off a bit. If we do not get a good breakout above this previous high with the SPY over the next couple trading days, I'm definitely going to get worried, Mike, and this has been one of the most volatile years on record, as we can see here. I really could not believe that I saw this stat that, 2025 is as volatile as, like, let's say the dot-com bubble and even periods of 2008.
It seriously is crazy. And diving into these stats a little bit more, this has actually been one of the most volatile years in history, as the S&P 500 has seen a 2% move in either direction on 23% of trading days, which comes out to around once a week just so far. This is the highest reading since 2022, when the share hit 29% for the full year, and April specifically is on track to be the third most volatile month on record, just coming in just after October 2008 and March 2020. So it really is crazy. And as we know, a lot of this has been the result of the trade war that we have have going on. And we do have some stock-specific news related to that today, as Temu actually just added 145% import charges on a lot of their items, and this is like one of the first major headlines we're seeing from this trade war situation.
Yeah, it really is. And I know that I've heard of other people doing like tariff surcharges maybe and different things of that nature. But especially like whenever we look at some of these companies, like whether it's Temu or Shein or some of these companies that people go to, like let's say instead of going to Amazon and getting more like, let's say, American made things. And I'm not saying everything on Amazon's American made either, but I'm just saying in general, you guys can obviously tell here that whenever they have to add fees between like 130 and 150%, onto some of these items, it gets pretty crazy. And you can see this chart here where they're actually comparing some of the import charges to some of the item prices themselves. Like I'm sitting here looking at like a 3-pack high-stretch athletic biker shorts for women. You're paying $38 just for the import charge, which is significantly more than you're even paying for the item itself. And it's like that in so many cases here. And I wonder if it'll get worse or get better, you know, depending if Trump softens some of those tariffs or not. But it's definitely something to keep on the lookout for. And this actually affects stock PDD, which owns Temu.
Exactly. So keep a close eye on PDD. Their stock has been selling off a little bit recently, which, you know, kind of dampens some of the expected trade war costs. They have been rebounding a little bit in the short term, Tom. But as we look at this chart, are there any like key levels or any technicals that really stick out to you?
There actually is. Like, as we look at PDD, there's been this awesome support range down here, anywhere between like $87 and $94 to $95. There's been so many touches and hits within this range and very consistent bounces, and it recently had a good bounce off of here. If we do see, like, let's say a bigger pullback in the short term and a test and break of this, I will get pretty worried. But considering how much it's held off this, I would expect it to continue to hold, and hopefully PDD and some of these companies can weather the storm a little bit.
And then also, if we zoom out, we can see that it has been making lower highs in a broader sense as well. So another way to potentially play this is waiting for the stock to get like a little bit more overextended and then looking to short another potential lower high. Maybe somewhere in between that like 112 to 120 range ideally, or maybe in a much worse case scenario, maybe around 124. But either way, this can have some swing potential depending on how the trade war continues to unfold. So it's just another stock to keep close on watch. And I know everyone's looking at this trade war situation and, you know, really looking to see how this is going to play out. And we did get some news from the Treasury Secretary today, Scott Bessent, but it certainly wasn't all that great.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. I feel like we just keep hearing this over and over again, but he pretty much came out and said that it's up to China to de-escalate this situation, and saying that, you know, that we're pretty much not going to be the ones to come to the table and start to really de-escalate the whole entire situation with maybe backing off of some of the tariffs or something along those lines. So I found this very interesting this morning, just as like a quick update for the China situation. Other than this, there wasn't really that many huge announcements today. I did hear that other countries have came forward with good proposals, and they did announce that a deal with India could be coming really soon. So I know I've heard a lot of talk with India recently, and even Apple has been shifting a lot of iPhone production over there.
Definitely. Yeah, very interesting, and we'll have to see what happens with China. It seems like we see the same news every day. China says we haven't started talks at all. Trump says they're going great. Scott Bessent says, China, you guys have to make a move. So we'll see what ends up playing out here, but it doesn't look all that great. But there was one Chinese stock that absolutely crushed it today, and that was ticker symbol PONY. This stock just ripped to the upside by nearly 50%. What is going on here?
Yeah, this is actually a Chinese robo-taxi company, and it's actually like a Waymo rival, and maybe even a rival to Tesla, with some of their new robo-taxi scheduled to start production or coming out sometime over the next couple of years. But this company has been planning to start mass production of their own robo-taxis, and we can see that they are up 47% today, as there was some news that came out that they cut their materials costs down to like $41,000 from $137. And of course, course, anytime you can do that, you're definitely going to have one hell of a good headline here. So I love to see this, Mike. Now, at the end of the day, Pony is starting their production. They want to get to a fleet size of around 1,000 from around 300 by the end of this year. So I find that kind of interesting. Either way, this is a very low price stock with a lot of movement. It was up 47% today. And if we go to the daily chart, you can tell that this stock has not had the best PA lately. So as it's coming up here, I'm almost thinking this is like a bit of a short squeeze situation, but at the same time, it's good to see them cutting costs and getting closer to like break even, so to say.
There's no doubt this is definitely a risky stock, but it is nice when we do see like the meme short squeeze stocks moving, because when they move quite a bit. This one popped up by 47% today. There definitely is some big opportunity scalping this one in both directions tomorrow. For the bulls out there, keep a close eye on that like $11.34 area for a potential high of day break. But with a setup like this one, you definitely don't want to marry it. For multiple reasons. Be willing to switch direction quickly, but it does have good strong movement, so keep it close on watch. But Tom, as we know, there has been a whole bunch of talk about members of Congress trading over the past few years, and it seems like we have an interesting update related to that today. So what is going on there?
Yeah, we definitely do. We've talked a lot about the potential ban of congressional members and their spouses of trading stocks. And we've heard a lot about Nancy Pelosi specifically trading stocks over the past couple of years. And more specifically, not even her husband. And that's kind of the thing here. So it's pretty funny. They're coming out with a new bill called the Pelosi Act. And Josh Hawley tried to do this bill in the past. Now they're resurrecting it once again. And I know that there's been a big call in the short term for banning members of Congress and like I said, their partners from trading stocks while they're in office. Now, of course, with this, there are some caveats. They might be able to still trade ETFs, for example, maybe diversified investments, longer term trades, U.S. Treasury bonds, things along that nature, they can still do under this. But at the end of the day, we don't have all of the details yet, but they call it the Pelosi Act, the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act. So what a name, right? Pelosi's going to go down in the history books here.
Yeah, so nothing is official so far, but this was getting some traction today, and I know Trump mentioned that he did like the idea of banning congressional stock trading, so this is something that might end up going through at some point, but either way, we figured it would be relevant to everyone, so we brought it up. So keep that in mind. But besides that, Tom, as we look at SPY, what are the key levels to watch for tomorrow, and what are you seeing in terms of the charts?
Unfortunately, today, the SPY really tried to get that breakout going, and you might have been able to catch it, but I will say, if we go to like a 1-minute chart and we look at SPY right when it opened, there was a very quick opportunity, very far and few between to the upside there before that major pullback. As the SPY closed today, it still failed to break back above that high of the day, right around 553.50, and I've been watching 554 as pretty solid resistance in the short term anyways. So I'll definitely be watching like 554 to the upside tomorrow, potentially. One thing I did notice over the past few trading days is that SPY is forming some higher lows here. And more specifically, as we zoom in, there's been a pretty good channel starting to play out right here. So the SPY has had pretty good bounces at those higher lows. And then as we clone this and we go to the upper end of the channel, very good bounces and pretty consistent movement off of this as well. If we could get like a good breakout up and out of this channel over the next couple trading days, that would definitely be something that I am watching for. But ahead of a lot of these big earnings later in the week, I would not be surprised if we stayed pretty choppy.
Yeah, so when we look at SPY, it definitely has been slowing down a little bit over the past few days. But again, we do have a lot of major earnings set to release. And I do think that is where most of the movement's going to come from this week, which is great not only for the market as a whole, but I think it'll also bring like a ton of movement, even more so with individual companies. So definitely keep that in mind. And there's nothing wrong with, trading individual stocks over the S&P 500, especially if that's where the action and movement is at. And then don't forget, we also do have a handful of important economic events as well.
Yeah, we do have the JOLTS jobs data tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 30 minutes after the market opens. There's been a lot of people watching the jobs data in the short term, of course, especially with the Federal Reserve so up in the air with rate cuts and the tariffs and everything. So that'll be pretty huge. And then Wednesday, we actually have the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, the PCE data, 30 minutes after open, and the GDP growth rate before open as well.
And then we have unemployment data on Friday, too. So it's definitely an action-packed week, which is great to see. So besides that, Tom, let's get right into some setups and predictions. A stock that is close on watch right now is Nvidia, and it is to the downside. This stock sold off a little bit today, as we covered in yesterday's video, where they had some negative news as more competition is coming out of China, among other things. Looking at Nvidia right now, like I said, they sold off a little bit today, and they are on my radar for a potential continuation tomorrow. But ideally, I would like to see this stock break below the low of day today, right around that $106 area. If we can break through that and put meaningful pressure on the new low of day, that would present some great bearish scalp opportunities in my opinion.
Yeah, I really do like Nvidia here in the short term to the downside. If they break under that 106 level, if we go to the Bookmap, we can see that there was actually a lot of buyers starting to stack up at 106 around the end of the day. And what I really like as well is that we have this key psychological $100 level coming up that could be a good target if we do start to see some good support breakdowns coming in tomorrow. So I definitely like that with the Bookmap and with Nvidia overall here. With my next or first setup, I should say, I'm looking at Roku in the short term. I saw a lot of good momentum today, and especially into market close. This stock was amazing and broke above its high of the day, very close to 68.25. If we can pretty much get above 68.30 tomorrow, I will continue to look at this one to the upside. It was one of the stronger stocks of the day and more consistent, especially with that end of day movement there. But I really do like Roku. As we zoom out on the daily chart, it's been recovering back up in a fantastic way in the short term.
Definitely. It's been very consistent. So I will also keep this one close on watch. Another stock that is definitely on the radar is Intel, and it is to the upside. This is a chip stock that actually did pretty well today and popped up by like 2.3%. A lot of the movement happened around open, but it did end up holding its move throughout the day, and it had a pretty strong close as well, which is always good to see. In a perfect world, I would like to see this stock get it back above that $20.80 area. But if someone's looking for more confirmation, there's nothing wrong with waiting maybe to like that $20.90 area. Or if you really wanted to wait, you could wait till like 21 or so. But it's definitely on my bullish radar for a potential continuation. The stock is showing some good movement, but I think it's in like an early stage of like a potential multi-day run.
Yeah, whenever you look at Intel in the short term, it's starting to bounce off that daily support pretty well. And today, especially early on at open, I thought it was going to be ending up a lot better. But, you know, to have that good end of day close, even to close up 2.29%, showed a lot of strength in my eyes. So I will be watching it to the upside tomorrow as well. And with my next setup, I'm looking at CLF to the upside as well. It's kind of a similar intraday pattern to Intel. Now, obviously, two totally different companies, of course, but as we look at CLF, I do like this intraday $8.20 to $8.25 resistance. If I could see a good breakout above there, I'm going to be watching for a good continuation back up. And I thought intraday, whenever it pulled back, it really held the psychological and just and support level at $8 in a strong way. So if we end up breaking below 8, it's probably a no play. But if we end up ripping above 8.25, there could be a lot of momentum. You know, these growth stocks were pretty hot today.
Sounds good. All right. Well, besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Peloton, PTON.
Peloton is on fire today. If they break out above $6.75, the high of pre-market today, keep watching them up.
All right, with the next one, we have AppLovin, APP.
App, if they end up breaking above 287, keep watching them to the upside. There was a little double top there today.
And then with the last one, we have Plug Power, PLUG.
Plug had a lot of crazy news today. They were up 25%. I think they were up like 40 or 60% at their high of day today as well, which was pretty crazy to say. It was like 46% at that high of day. So that's a pretty crazy jump from where they closed on Friday. If they're able to break above that high of day and break $1.20, keep watching them to the upside.
Sounds good. So we have these 3 stocks on the radar for potential continuations tomorrow, only if they break through the levels listed. These stocks are volatile, so you have to protect yourself, have stop losses, size reasonably, don't get married to any direction ever, and have a clear thesis for your trade. Know why you were trading, so when that condition changes, it is an indication to exit or adjust your position accordingly. You can learn a lot more about long-term oriented trading habits for free in the Key Lessons channel of the StockedUp Discord. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $460,000 big money trade. And today we are looking at ticker symbol RVMD, where the big money bought the 40 strike call options that expire on July 18th. This is nearly a $500,000 trade. This stock did pretty well today as the company released some encouraging phase 1 lung cancer trial data. And as we know, biotech companies like this one certainly do move quite a bit off of any update or treatment related data like we saw today. These options are already in the money, which is great to see. The options have a fair amount of time to them, which is also a plus. It appears the trader here is looking to capitalize off of a somewhat aggressive move in the short term. The stock has been doing very well off that $30 support as well, and it's definitely a volatile one, so I would say it's a pretty high risk, high reward.
100%. I really do like that bounce off that $30 support. Like you mentioned recently, has been roaring back to life in an awesome way. It was dipping so much at the end of 2024 into 2025. And over the past few weeks, it's been really coming back. And whenever these pharmaceutical companies get good news like this, you can definitely see some crazy continuations. So I'll be watching this one very closely. If you're a little bit worried about entering maybe a little bit too high here, there is a really good support at $40 that it just broke out above today. If you want to wait for a pullback there, you can, but just realize with these, you could end up missing the boat.
No doubt. So either way, keep a close eye on this one going forward. But if you are new to the channel, definitely consider subscribing so you can get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day, we cover big money trades just like this one, as well as all the other important information that you need to know, whether it be key earnings, important news, or even data that you might have never otherwise would have saw, just like this volatility chart and data that we showed today. So definitely consider obliterating that subscribe button and you will hear from us more often. But we also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Robbie Two Gloves in the StockedUp trading floor, who had some great gains today with ticker symbol PLUG and some great percent returns as well. So huge shout out to you, Robbie. Keep up the great work going forward, and it is awesome to see posts like this one. If you guys are into short-term trading, definitely check out the first link down below to get a discount on Bookmap. Bookmap is like the X-ray vision of the stock market, and like we showcased in today's video with NVIDIA, you can see exactly where key buy and sell orders are lined up, and it's especially useful for multiple different reasons, whether it be identifying key levels of support and resistance where the stock can potentially bounce off of or reject off of, or even looking at how many buyers and sellers are stacked up for potential breakout levels. So definitely check it out. StockedUp viewers do save. There's a special offers icon that appears if you use the link down below. But besides that, guys, we are set for a very exciting week. We have some huge earnings on the lineup and a lot of exciting events too. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.